Knightline is brought to you by the Dever Team, your source for New Smyrna Beach real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Go to www.thedeverteam.com and call UCF alumni Travis Dever for all your New Smyrna Beach needs. 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636.
Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley coming to you from the 1148 studios, and this is Knightline 176 from the award-winning Knightline Sports Network. Joining me, as always,
Trylko. Hello, everyone. Kind of forgotten how it feels to talk about a loss. It stinks, to be honest with you. Nonetheless, we will be hashing over the Fiesta Bowl with former Knightnick Patti. Plus, we hear from UCF players in Only on Knightline exclusives. Men's basketball keeps rolling along. We check in with former Knight Ben Stout. We're firing up the shredder, and we're talking superstitions in Ask Knightline. But first.
All right, UCF's winning streak may have been snapped in the Valley of the Sun, but what these Knights have built will endure. Simply put, it's not over yet. UCF has a lot more to do. The 2019 season can't get here fast enough. But let's put a bow on 2008, a campaign which UCF finishes 12-1 in the Josh Heupel's first year as head coach, following a 40-32 loss to LSU.
Happy New Year, Andrew and Night Nation.
I forgot all about that. I
like that song. I'm not familiar with it. King and Country is the...
yeah, I think they're a Christian band, to be honest with you.
No, that's in the video plays out the
that
the
was
lyrics.
a lyric video.
Yeah,
but
I like that.
I was. You sent me some, and I was looking for some more, and found that one. I thought it said what we needed to say perfectly. So
the lyrics are really good. This goes out to the heaviest heart, it says right now on screen. I'm watching the video again.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't talked about a loss in a very, very long time.
Not since that Cure Bowl debacle.
And post-game live that I did, which I promise I will put in the feed later on this week because it's on YouTube if you want to hear it, but I will put it in the regular podcast feed so you get it later, and it'll be on our website and all that stuff. It was not easy to do. Thank you for Night Bingle for hanging out, watching the game with me, doing post-game live, and then also helping me work on my car, because that's all I did the entire time that I had off during the holiday time. I had a big car issue, so
not firing on all cylinders
no,
like the UCF Knights?
Had a transmission problem, and I had to tear that baby apart. If you don't know, I work on all my stuff. I don't let anybody touch my cars, so yeah, I had my transmission all over the garage for a few days. And thank God the wife was out of town, and I could drive her car to work the days that I had to work. So anyway, after the game, I finished working on the ar and all that stuff. And I was out there late New Year's Eve working on the car. That's how I rang in my New Year. What about you, Trace?
Yeah. Rang in my New Year in cold and rainy Arizona. You expect sun and warmth, but it was anything,
not always
anything. But I know it's a football cliche, but I do remember many a George O'Leary post-game press conference when he would say, games turn on 5 or 6 plays, and boy, you can see them in your mind from this game. Up 14-3, you stop LSU on a third down, you're going to force them to punt, and a young kid makes an unfortunate mistake and really a ticky-tacky kind of call on spiking the ball. And we're talking about Randy Charlton, who I believe will look back on that play and he knows it was just a mistake. It will be the really the only big mistake that he shows in his career at UCF.
I think
there's
so.
a lot of talent.
He's
going to
be,
kid.
yeah, he's an amazing talent, and he'll be fine.
And then reliable, sure-hand guys like Gabe Davis and Coobs dropping some balls and some penalties that are just, and then to still get that close.
Yeah, 8 points. I mean, we did not get our asses handed to us. We did not. And all the SEC people that want to say that are just dead wrong. We did not. It was a very, still a close game. 8 points. That's a.
But just as it was with that Cure Bowl, you don't want to end the season. You don't want to go into January and February and March with the taste of a loss. But it can be motivating. And we have Nick Patti coming up. We really dive deep and dissect it. But you said something about they lost that Cure Bowl in Scott Frost's first season to finish 6-7, and well, look what happened the next season. It was motivating.
Right. Yeah.
To carry on from that loss, and there were mistakes made.
I think it's
lessons to be learned.
Yeah, it's definitely motivating, and I don't think that these guys are gonna forget about this for a long time. In fact, here is a quote right here from Daryl Mack about not forgetting about it.
We're gonna remember this feeling in all season, spring, summer camp. We're going to go out there and play with this on our mind.
All right, well, there you go. He says that they're going to remember it the entire time, and it's going to be, something for them to think about when they're out there, practicing in two-a-day practices or whatever. I guess they don't have two-a-days anymore. But when the times get tough, you can remember your last game, and it'll give you something to shoot for sure. So
can't remember if you said it while we were talking with Nick or before or after the recording, but you said, we're talking about the performance of Daryl Mack against Memphis, and Memphis and LSU, they're different kind of programs.
Big time.
And those are some big boys on those lines.
Yep.
And to me, all the losses that they had on the defensive side of the ball and not having McKenzie, all of that cancels out.
Yeah.
No excuses.
No, they were better up front on both sides of the ball, period, especially on the offense, because if you look at time of possession, that's the biggest thing that comes out to my mind. It's 44 minutes to 15 minutes. I go through it in the Nick Patti segment later on. I broke it down by quarter.
3 minutes.
3 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 2 minutes and something in the fourth quarter.
By the way, which is maybe okay if you've scored in a minute.
Right.
But there were, I believe, 4 possessions in the second half. The first 3, if I'm not mistaken, there were 3 and out.
Yeah. And you can't, in this offense, you cannot have 3 and outs. That's the thing.
They had momentum going into halftime. I mean, on a beautiful touchdown, just a highlight reel touchdown that Daryl threw. And you halftime, and then you just fizzle on offense.
Not only did they have momentum there, though, but I think the momentum was out of our sails, and I say this in the Nick Patti interview as well. The momentum and the wind was out of our sails when Kyle Gibson was kicked out of the game. Personally, I thought that was the beginning of the end, and it pretty much was, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I heard you say that to Nick. I guess the second chance for LSU after Charlton's penalty, where you don't know that UCF goes up more than 14-3, but that they cut it to 14-10 after that, to me was where it changed, where it started to change more than that, Kyle Gibson. But there's several plays where you just shake your head. I don't know. Did you see rust in terms of a month off? Or, I mean, it's certainly there were bad penalties.
We were the better team won. Period. It was that easy. The better team won, and I hate to say that. I hate to say that worse than anybody hates to say that. But that's what happened. LSU was the better team, and they won. So let's hear what Josh Heupel had to say directly after the game.
Obviously, hats off to LSU. They played a really good football game and did enough to win it. Told the players in the locker room, coaches and players, today we weren't good enough to find a way to win a football game. Love the way that they competed for 4 quarters, continued to fight with everything that they had, played as a group. just weren't good enough at the end. Did some things uncharacteristic of us just early in the football game that hurt us a little bit, but again, our kids continued to fight, and so.
And he's talking about the penalties there with the uncharacteristic stuff, the celebrating when you shouldn't be celebrating, and all kinds of other stuff. So,
first loss as a head coach comes in his last game.
I really thought that their quarterback was done, by the way, when Joey Connors laid that beautiful hit on him, just leveled him.
And that kid's got moxie to come back, though. You got to give him that. He was bleeding.
And I knew that they were going to call, they were going to say targeting just by the way that these referees were acting. I knew they were going to say that was targeting, which if you look at the rule, that is not targeting because he was a defense player at that point. He was not an offensive player, blah, blah,
blah.
But
you do think the other three, though, were fairly called targeting.
Yeah. I think the one on LSU, I don't know. The Kyle Gibson one probably was targeting. I mean, it was, but I don't know. I just feel like these, and I talked about this in the Nick Patti interview too. I just feel that the referees inserted themselves into this game and made a difference in this game where the referees should never make a difference in this game. I mean, they were calling everything.
Well, except
when they should have been
interference
calling
on
stuff.
Otis Anderson play, and no,
they were calling things though that they shouldn't, and not calling things that they should have is what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So a lot of things like that. So here's what Josh Heupel had to say, his message to the team moving on from here.
The first message about next year was handling the adversity of this football game. This program's not accustomed to losing. No one in that locker room has lost in a couple of years. How we handle that today, tonight, in the week before we get back on campus, when we first start our off season, all of those things will speak to who and what we're going to be moving forward. I expect our kids to handle it in a great way.
Well, and that's nothing more could be more true.
A couple of years, he said,
yeah.
of the last loss.
True. I mean, it's true.
What was it that Nick said to us before he went on the mic?
It was the first loss that he's had as a fan since he was playing.
He's gone on to success in professional life and away from football. And
2 years. 2 years was that game at the Cure Bowl was his last loss, and that was his last game. So that's a long time. It's a long time. Here's what Josh Heupel, he talked a little bit about the costly penalties. Here's what he had to say on that.
We talk about that, this every one play makes the difference in the football game. At the same time, when that play's over, just focusing on and moving on to the next one, because every play's got a chance to be the difference. We didn't handle the emotional part of the game as well as we needed to early in the football game, and you combine that with an early turnover when we got things going. We stubbed our toe enough early that we weren't able to change the way the game was played a little bit early in the football game.
All right. Well, besides the penalties, and I've said it before, I just feel like that we got completely dominated on the offensive line. Daryl Mack really never had a chance to do anything back there, never had a chance to get going. And I think, that had a lot to do with how this thing turned out.
Did you like the game plan?
Well, it never had a chance to get going. So,
But is that some decision-making by coaches, though, as well?
But that's how our offense works, too. That's what it's been all year long, and it's gotten us through, the 12 wins. So, it's not my position to judge call playing, to be honest with you. I don't think, even though we judge everything else here. I'm not a big guy to judge the way that the calls are
I get the line play
made.
And the time of possession difference. But Greg McCrae ends up with just 10 carries.
Yeah, but we weren't having very much success running the ball.
Well, but Greg McCrae wasn't, or some of the play calls were to Adrian Killen's loss of 3 yards, second and 13.
Those weren't the greatest play calls, but you still were not, when your offensive line is being dominated that much, there's not a lot of room to run. There's just not. When they're not opening the holes, where are you going to run? Straight into their backs is where you're going to run, or straight into a defensive lineman's arms. So, I don't know. Here is what Josh Heupel had to say, though, on the offensive struggles.
I think you saw at times we had some protection issues where, we had some things open or DJ's getting close to releasing the ball, but he's not able to hold on to it for one more tick to get the ball out of his hands. I thought they did a good job of getting to the quarterback. Part of that is playing behind the chains at times too, where you're in predictable situations, and you put all those things together. That's why we didn't play as well as we were capable of at times for 60 minutes.
Well, yeah, that's basically that. He explained it in a nutshell right there. So there were some positives, though, that Josh Heupel saw at least. So let's hear what he had to say on the positives
that he saw
this
at least.
Game.
I think our kids competed for 4 quarters. They handle adversity extremely well. I think that's one of the things I'm most proud of this group about. I think you look at what they've done over the last 2 seasons, right? You get one opportunity, you got to go out on the field, and you get one 60-minute clock to wind down, and you got to be good enough. Today we weren't. Credit to LSU. I think that also speaks to how special this group is to be able to do that for 25 straight weeks the last couple of years, and I just appreciate who and what they are. I told them in the locker room, in sports you focus so much on the destination. It's important. We certainly wanted to finish this one off the right way. But when you walk away from the destination, right, it truly is about the journey. And I love the way that these guys have a tight brotherhood inside of the locker room. I appreciate how they've bought into the things that we're trying to build upon in our program. And I do believe this is just the beginning of what we're going to be.
All right. Well, I don't even know what to say after that.
You feel, though, that the future seems brighter than it did after that Cure Bowl loss. We liked a lot of what we saw in year one under Scott Frost. We knew that this was not really an 0-12 team in 2015 that he inherited, and he built in positivity and a family concept. And we saw a young Mackenzie Milton take the field and suffer through some lumps, before the fan base turns on Darryl Mack. Let's not forget Mackenzie against Maryland with all those turnovers and fumbles.
Six fumbles.
And
six
you know
turnovers.
who you are if you booed Mackenzie Milton at that Cure Bowl game and chanted that you wanted Justin Holman. No disrespect to Justin Holman, and now we know what we've had the last 2 seasons under Mackenzie Milton. No excuses, and both teams were without players, but you could see that there were many moments in that game where Mackenzie would have eluded a tackler or he would have had the ball better placed on a throw, and you really missed Mackenzie Milton in that game.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good things to come here. There's a clip here that it's kind of odd for me because I don't really know how to set this one up, and I'm going to be honest about it, but I want you to hear this clip because there's some good things that Heupel says.
I thought they went and played the next play. I thought that happened with the penalty early in the football game where we stop them and they're in a punting situation where we give them a new set of downs. There's a bunch of plays in this game, but there's always a handful of plays that you look back on that are really impactful. But you got to move on from it. I think were there opportunities in this football game that we missed, that we didn't take advantage of? Absolutely. I think that's what's special about this game, though. I mean, you only get one opportunity to walk out on the field. They got great coaches on the other side. I'm talking about in this ball game, but I'm talking about in every game. And they got 85 guys with scholarships. Right? And I think, one of the things that's been missed, and it's been not missed by me, but I haven't been able to talk about it because we're in such a grind of just the season and moving on to the next week and trying to keep kids focused is in all the national championship talk and banner with our program from last season. What gets lost to me as much as anything is how special it is for a group of individuals to come together collectively and go out there and have one 60-minute clock for 25 straight weeks and find a way to be good enough to go get a win. I think it says a lot about the character that's in our locker room. It says a lot about the leadership, the toughness, mentally and physically, to be able to handle that and to go play football for that amount of time and find a way to win.
All right, well, I wanted you to hear that clip, but I really couldn't. It was the question that was asked of him was not what he finished with. It was the beginning of that, and somebody asked him, after, 3 and outs or whatever, what do you do to get your kids to, play good after that or whatever, but then he kind of went into something else, and I liked that. About what he said there, just about the guts of all these guys to do that for as long as they have.
I think he's 100% right in that, and I think that's the solace that you take into this long off season as a UCF fan, is that you've just witnessed 2 seasons of really unbelievable character and play from a gritty group of guys.
Absolutely.
And you gotta enjoy this ride. No one wants that loss. Coach Heupel, the players, the seniors, you listening, us. We don't want to discuss a loss. Inevitability, though.
Yep.
And don't let it diminish what has been a wonderful ride.
Absolutely.
We go back, you go back to the season. Boy, the challenge. It's one thing if you're Scott Frost coming here in your first year head coach, and you certainly have a task in front of you, but it's easier to go from 0 wins. Nobody thought he was going to go to 6.
Yeah.
We thought, but he gets to 4, 4 or 5, he'll have this thing heading in the right direction. Imagine you inherit all of the hype, all of the publicity, all of the talk, and you don't come in and say, this is my playbook, my way or the highway. He listened to players, a lot of family building. You remember all the barbecues and pool parties? Those won't go away this offseason. There will continue to be bonding as he integrates his recruits. Another recruiting class, by the way, we haven't even had opportunity to breathe with that early signing period to really reflect on that, and we will in the weeks ahead talk about that recruiting class. What a challenge for him as a first-year head coach to come off of the season the UCF had in 2017 and take them to where they were in 2018.
And he handled it perfectly. I mean, it couldn't have been handled any better except for this game. This last game was, obviously, and that will fortunately not be his legacy, because he's actually staying. And that's nice.
There was none of that drama.
No, none of that drama. Thank God.
Because of travel and really the hangover from this game, this is the first time I'm hearing some of these sound bites, because I made a different decision in the post game not to be there with Coach Heupel, because I was hopeful we'd get it from some other sources, and I did post game locker room interviews instead. And so it's refreshing to hear Coach Heupel's comments, and I think you've said it. I mean, they got beat, and there's a lot of what ifs in this game, and it didn't turn out quite right, but it doesn't diminish the ride UCF's been on in 2018 and the year before.
Absolutely. And Josh Heupel was asked about the legacy of the seniors, and this is what he had to say about that.
We talked about in the locker room, what we've been able to showcase, who we are individually and ultimately collectively this past season, leading into this ball game. We'll reveal a lot about ourselves here, handling adversity of this type as well as we move forward. I know that our kids are going to handle it the right way. The seniors, to me, they leave a legacy of handling adversity, jumping over every hurdle that's placed in front of them. Most importantly, leaving a culture of love and brotherhood inside of our locker room. And I think that will be their lasting impression on our program.
All right, well, lots of seniors going out on this one. Some pretty big names, and then a couple other people going out to the NFL a little bit early, Hill and Snelson.
You talked about the seniors. They really lingered on the field after the game. Taj McGowan on one knee, several players, putting their hands on, patting him on the back in the helmet. He was emotional. Mac Loudermilk didn't want to leave the field. A lot of these guys, that's probably their last hurrah in big time football. They may not have careers in the pros, and so they left it out on the field.
Here's what Michael Colubiali said after the game.
I mean, obviously everyone in the locker room is really upset. I mean, we haven't lost a game since 2016. The freshman class or sophomore class hasn't even lost a game since they've been here. It's the first time losing, but this program's came so far. I'm just really excited to watch as a fan for the future. I think this place is just getting started. I think this is going to be a regular appearance in the New Year's Day Bowl and even beyond that. I'm just so proud to have been attending this school and play for this program.
And he got 6 years to play.
Are you sure?
Freaking awesome.
Are we sure there's not another year of
Well,
eligibility?
I hope they can find
because
another
they
one
pulled one
somehow.
out of the hat last year.
Yeah.
We were done with.
That'd be awesome.
We spoke of Michael Colubiali and how much he contributed to the program, and boom, he was back again.
Well, there is another Colubiali on the team, so he can, hopefully he's a wide receiver. Hopefully he will do as well. So it's his cousin, which is really cool. So that name will continue with UCF. All right, here's what Titus Davis also had to say after the game.
It's a bad feeling in the locker room. I mean, these guys haven't lost a game since 2016, but these guys I'm just grateful for the opportunity that we have to be here and the opportunity to just looking at where we came from and how far we've come and how far we have to go. I mean, this is just one stepping stone, and I feel like next year these guys are going to come back even stronger.
So, Trace, you talked a little bit earlier about having the opportunity to go in the locker room and talk to guys. There's a couple of these interviews that it was just you talking with these guys, which is really cool.
Which is different than we experienced during UCF season.
Right.
At the Bowl, there are some different rules similar to what you would face with NFL, that you have open locker room after a cooling off period. And so when I said it was the first I've heard Coach Heupel in some of these bites, it was like be in one place or the other. And I thought we'd have opportunity to catch up on those sound bites as you did and you found. So I went into the locker room, and it's chaotic, and it was not a happy environment.
There are some sound bites that I'm going to take from those, and there are some extended interviews that are just, none of them are more than 2 minutes long. But I'm going to play one of those right now, and that one is going to be Brandon Moore. This is probably the happiest one of them all.
What a pick six, huh?
Yeah, absolutely awesome.
First, talk about the pick six.
Quarterback, I don't think he saw me, and I made a good play by posting the receiver up, and I caught the ball, and I just seen green grass.
What's that feeling like? You dropped to your knees there when you get into the end zone.
So I was just happy. I was making a play for my team. We just be out there selfless for each other, and I was real happy, and I just couldn't do nothing but thank God.
You guys had a lot of momentum there. You're up 14-3. Talk about what you started to experience on both sides of the ball here.
We just couldn't move the ball a little bit, but we never gave up on the offense, we always got their back, they always got our back, So, we just missed a few plays, but we'll be back.
What's it like to lose Kyle in the way in which he's ejected from the game?
Oh, that hurt us bad, but thankful Antoine was able to come in and step up, and so I was happy.
What was Coach's message to the team at the end here?
Just to stay ourselves, don't get down on each other, because you played a hell of a season, you played a hell of a team, and just come back stronger.
It's one loss coming off 25 straight wins. As you look back on that, still a tremendous season. You just hate to lose at the end.
That's crazy. I was just preaching to the team, we ain't lost in 2 years, man. That's crazy, Nobody should be mad about anything. We're going to come back. I just hurt for the teams. I wish they didn't have to go out like that, but we'll be good.
What do you think this team looks like going into the future?
We're going to be good. We're going to be solid. We got a lot of recruits coming in, a lot of guys returning, so it's going to be a good offseason. We'll be back.
All right, and then my next favorite one out of all these, maybe my favorite one, this one is with Jordan Johnson. He's just such a likable guy, and he seemed like he was kind of down after the loss, but still a great interview.
What are you feeling here?
I'm happy that we got the chance to be on this highest stage. This is one of the highest stages in college football, so I'm just honored and appreciative. Nothing but positive feelings right now.
You really built something here over these past couple of seasons, haven't you? That'll be enduring.
Definitely. A 25-game winning streak. I don't think a good 5% of teams can say that in all of college football. So we definitely built something special here.
Close in this one. It's got a sting, doesn't it, that you come that close and you still can't get over the hump?
Yeah, it was tough. Especially when you think you got a chance coming late in the game, and then things should spiral out of control and things that you just can't control happen. So that hurt a little bit, but we'll be back. We'll definitely be back.
Talk about the quality of LSU on that line.
We've got some pretty good guys up there. I know they had a couple guys that got dinged up or hurt or even left for the draft, but we knew that their backups were just as good. So we never took them for granted, and we definitely gave it all out there.
You all really came together as a family. You feel that even in a loss?
100%. And I got nothing but respect for all these guys because we never saw any quit. We never saw anybody doubting the fact that we could win this game, even up until the end.
What did Coach say to you after the game?
Coach just let us know that he loves us and he cares about us, and we'll come back next year stronger than ever.
Future bright for this team?
It's bright as the sun.
You're proud to be a Knight?
I'm not more proud about any other thing than being a University of Central Florida Knight.
Once a Knight, always a Knight?
Once a Knight, always a Knight.
I love the end of it because you made him laugh. I think that's awesome. Very, very cool. All right. The next one here real quick that we're going to do is Greg McCrae.
Tough to see the season end like this, huh?
Yeah, it is. We got seniors out there that play their heart out, and to send them out like this, it's tough. So,
what was challenges for the offense, and especially getting the running game going early?
Just getting in the rhythm. They got a good defense. They were slowing to the ball hard. Just a good defense overall by them. We got to take what was given, but we came up a little short.
What was Coach's message to the team here at the end?
That we're family. Regardless of what happens, we all family. We've been through adverse situations. This is just another adversity. So we just get through this and come back hard for next season.
What's the future look like for this team?
It's a good future. I'm not gonna speak too much on it because I don't like looking to forward. But we on a good path, and we gonna be back.
I think on your year, you really had a breakout year. Talk about your success this season and how it carries you to the future.
That credit goes to my O-line, the receivers blocking downfield. They provide running lanes for me to run through, and I just took what was given to me. So that's all that is. It's nothing special about me. We got a boatload of running backs that all could do the same thing. So just the O-line, receivers blocking downfield, collective effort.
You hate to end on a loss. That stings. You got to carry that with you into spring ball, into fall camp. Motivating, though?
Yeah, it is. LSU was a team that was in the college football playoff in the conversation, and we came up short. But it's motivating because you see that we're right there with them. We're step for step with them, being able to play in big time ball. So put up points against a top defense. So that's very motivating. It's something we look on leaning towards in the future.
If you noticed there in that one as well, he just said, it's not all me. It is everything that I did was because of my offensive line. And I love it when players do that. I absolutely love it.
Thoughtful guy.
Yeah.
And
smart guy.
Smart guy. Yeah. The whole atmosphere there's just a short window. So these are shorter clips because I'm trying to bounce from locker room to locker room.
Exclusive stuff, though, man. This is awesome. This is like what it's all about.
I mean, they have a person in there from the Fiesta Bowl that's saying 5 minutes to go, and then 1 minute to go. You're interviewing somebody, and you hear somebody 1 minute to go. Oh, okay. I mean, they can't be in there forever,
right?
But it's just a chaotic environment.
And then the last one of those little extended things, Kyle Gibson. You got to talk with him a little bit. Let's hear that one.
Sum up your UCF career.
There was a lot of up and downs, but I mean, it was kind of like a lesson, because we didn't start off that. It started off 0-12, when Coach Frost came and we turned the program around, back on top, and just, a lot of people, talk about, the matchups, with SEC, versus our conference, just to have a chance, to be in this game and show that we can compete. Even though we didn't come out with a W, it was still a great opportunity to come out here and play.
A lot of memories in 4 years for you, isn't it?
A lot, 5. So it's a lot. But like I said, it was just a great lesson, still learning. Not only helped me, after this, So I'm just thankful.
What was Coach's message to the team at the end here?
Kind of the same thing. I mean, we shouldn't let, one game. I mean, I know it's a big game, but we shouldn't let one game define the whole road that we went through. Because a lot of people before this season said we couldn't even do that again, So just proving people wrong, it just feels good.
What's the future look like for this team?
Future, I think it's pretty bright. We have a lot of young players with experience, and just from the season we've been having, the recruiting class is looking pretty good, and UCF is, looking like a bright spot for a lot of recruits. So I'm just happy to be a part of this and just be able to make someone, want to come here. My senior year of high school, I watched them win the Fiesta Bowl. So that had, a part to do with my decision coming here. And I know, someone else is watching as well. So.
All right, well, let's hope that the other kids that we're watching still want to come and play at UCF. I know that they do.
Well, this kid made an announcement on TV this week.
Yeah, well,
that classic.
Incredible. And that dude, I'm going to find a little bit more out about him because I know that somebody on the boards suggested that we do that. There was a picture of him just a couple of years ago in a hospital bed in a coma with like a breathing tube, the whole thing. So I'd like to figure out what's going on with that, and hopefully we can find a little bit out about that. But big time signee that guy is. So Trevon, I believe his name is. So very, very cool defensive lineman, and he was a Gatorade All-American. So very, very cool there.
And that's coming after that window, all of the time frames here are interesting, aren't they?
Yes, but he technically signed already, but just didn't want to announce it until that game. So we already knew that we had him. It was just the announcement that he wanted to make during that game, because that was, on ESPN and all that stuff. I actually watched the whole thing, so good game. Deion Sanders was one of the coaches, and then Steve Mariucci was the other coach, which was really cool. So, all right, as far as clips here, we've got a few more. Let's hear what a couple of these seniors had to say about playing in front of Knight Nation. It's Michael Clubiali and Titus Davis.
It's an absolute privilege to be a part of this program and see, like I said, see it grow. And it's just amazing how much support that has been around this program for the past 2 seasons. And we just really appreciate everything that Knight Nation has came with every single week. And just they have our backs no matter what, and that's what we really appreciate.
It's truly a blessing just to be in the locker room with these guys and like I said, seeing where we come from, man. I keep going back to that, but being 0-12 is so discouraging, and to bounce back from that to where we are today, to watch our fan base grow and watch them come halfway across the country to watch us play. Like I said, it's truly a blessing, and I'm looking forward to coming back as an alumni and watching these guys play again.
All right, so those were the 2 seniors that were up there with Heupel, so that's why we have a little bit more of them than anybody else. Another guy that you caught up with was Danny White outside of the locker room, which is really cool because we don't have exclusive clips with him very often, so that's kind of cool.
Well, in fairness, he was being interviewed by a couple of people, so I was in on that. That was not a one-on-one situation.
Well, it's still, you never know if you're going to hear him anywhere else, so we still got it. So let's hear what Danny White had to say on if he was disappointed about this loss.
Was there a disappointment that it had to come to an end at some point? That
we were going to lose a game eventually. That we certainly had a little bit of misfortune in that game, and a little bit of misfortune as our season wound down. But that's football. That's the nature of sport. So I certainly can't say I'm disappointed in a team that won 25 straight football games.
And then the next one is him on talking about the 25 win streak.
It's been a historic run. I think it'll be a big part of our history. You know, we're such a young place that our history is by and large in front of us. So 3 New Year's Day bowl games in the last 5 years, and wish we would have had 3 wins, but certainly getting to them is an accomplishment. And, we're really proud of this team and everything they accomplished, and look to build on this success to get to even greater heights as a program.
All right, one more clip here, and it is about Mackenzie making the trip. And Trace, I know that you were able to talk to him a little bit after the game.
Yeah, I chatted with him briefly. As a result of not playing in the game, he's not permitted to do formal interviews, but certainly if your microphone's not on, you can chit-chat with him. And he was in good spirits. You saw him many times in the cutaways. I watched back the broadcast a quarter a night, so I couldn't do it all in one night. It's a different way to watch a game. You ever do that? You watch like a quarter a night?
No, but I mean, if you...
know what's coming, and you're like, nah, I did it because, okay, I'd had enough.
I haven't actually watched this game over. I don't even know if it's still available, but I can probably
But I talked to him. I talked to his family as well, and he's in good spirits. You know, he's endured already a couple of surgeries, has another one coming up in a couple of weeks. And, you know, he's got a long road to recovery, as we have talked about and documented. As his dad said to me, he's got 2 things going in his direction, support from family and friends, and his faith. And, you know, he's a strong kid with a strong support system, and he'll make it through all of this.
Absolutely. And I know that Danny White was pretty excited to have him out there and make the trip just like the players were. So here's what Danny White had to say about Mackenzie making the trip.
I think it was great for him. I think it was great for his teammates to see him, and he's meant so much to our university and certainly this football team, and he's going to continue to mean a whole lot. So we're excited about him continuing with his recovery, and excited about the future of our program.
All right, well, that's the clips.
The clip show portion.
There was a lot there.
Mix of emotions, but as I said to you on Postgame Live, the future is bright.
Absolutely. No question. There's no question that the future is bright. I'm kind of excited about this draft class, or draft, signing day class. Draft, it's kind of like, recruiting. It's that was a big thing, I think.
We haven't really had an opportunity because of the way the holidays fell and everything, and bowl previews.
We'll have a little bit more on that,
yeah.
Quite a bit of time.
Yeah,
we get
January.
Unfortunately,
February.
I hate this time of the year. This is a thing that we've talked about a million times. I hate this time of the year because I'm not that big of a basketball fan. I am, but football is my thing, obviously, and it's just
we got plenty to talk about still.
I know we do.
We got plenty to talk about.
We got all kinds.
I brought back for you one of the marketing pieces that UCF had out. It's called "Transforming Access into Impact." It's facts for 2018-19. So I thought, as the weeks and months ahead, there's so many different facts on UCF. I thought I'd share them, especially going into a break, because we've got so much more ahead in Knightline number 176. Their first fact is that UCF's 1,415-acre main campus in East Orlando is home to 13 colleges that offer more than 220-degree programs.
Wow.
That's their first
That's a lot.
factoid. So I brought you one of these, and
cool.
I'll
have to look at that.
Try it out. It's a good. It's good.
The promotional material that the Fiesta Bowl puts out is top notch.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, they're not.
Except for one little typo you pointed out to me earlier.
In their official media notes, they listed different title sponsor for the Fiesta Bowl UCF was in 5 years ago.
Yeah,
as we
it was
all
Vizio,
know,
they say, instead
it was
of
not
Tostitos.
Vizio. It was Tostitos.
Tostitos.
I got a shirt that says
Fiesta Bowl.
Tostitos.
Yes, I do too.
Yeah, from Sanford to San Diego and across Night Nation, Knightline, your source for the best UCF conversation, continues in just a moment. We welcome Nick Patti in to talk about the Fiesta Bowl and more.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else, New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline and Knightline Postgame Live. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
Welcome to Inside the Red Zone with Nick, the Wild Knight Patti.
Let's get some perspective on UCF's Fiesta Bowl loss with former UCF quarterback Nick Patti, who is inside the red zone and joins us now on the Knightline hotline. Nick, first, Happy New Year to you.
Yeah, you guys too. Thanks for having me. Happy New Year. New Year's was off to a great start.
Well, this is uncharted territory for us. We're not used to talking about a loss, and certainly not with you. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. I just thinking of the last time we dropped one I was still suiting up. My first loss as a fan or alumni, however you see it. So uncharted territories for all of us for a while, but it happens. We knew this would happen at some point, especially with how hot we were and how we were playing, and just some of the cards we were dealt this year. I mean, you just know it's going to come at a certain point, but you're proud of not only the streak and all that, but how everyone handled the streak and how they went about their business, and certainly how they performed in the Fiesta Bowl.
Late in the game, I posted on Twitter at UCF_Knightline, what if? A whole lot of what ifs. That certainly, as you look back on this, there were opportunities in this game in which UCF could have continued that win streak to 26.
Absolutely. A number of opportunities. I mean, I think if you just break down, there's always 3 or 4 games or 3 or 4 plays in every game that can change the game. 3 or 4 plays that go one way or another, that if you change those small percentage of plays, that it changes. For UCF, there's one that screams at you, and that's this, the layup touchdown that kind of goes off of his hands and all that. And then the one that, in my opinion, was just a pretty terribly missed ball by Darryl for the second opportunity there. And if one of those is a score, it completely changes the outlook of the game, obviously, in that moment. And then you go back to the 4th down, you go for it earlier on in the game, that doesn't go our way. That's a one play that can maybe flip, and we convert on that, and maybe that turns into a score as well. You just never know how those types of plays can shift. That was one point in the game that I was a little frustrated that they didn't slow down. I know that it's, you live and die by the tempo, you live and die by the speed. It's certainly an element of surprise, but there are certain points in the game that I think, you got to take advantage of slowing down, especially with some of Coach Heupel's creativity and some of the looks that they can present and some of the speed matchups that we had. I really thought that was an opportunity for them to slow down and take advantage of some things, and they did. They ran a play that, whether it be high percentage or not, it was a quick pass, and it didn't pan out. But I just thought that was one that they could have. That I'd have loved to have him back. I'm sure they did too.
Yeah, well, the biggest thing that comes to my mind is while I'm looking at these stats, and I talked about this on the postgame show a little bit, and I think that we talked about this during the preview as well. This time of possession was the craziest time of possession I think that I've ever seen in a football game, to be honest with you. 44-31 to 15-29. Now, if you break that down by quarter, we had the ball in the first quarter for 3 minutes and 6 seconds. In the second quarter, 5 minutes and 39 seconds. In the third quarter, 3 minutes and 52 seconds. And in the fourth quarter, 2 minutes and 52 seconds. You can't do anything, especially if you're not making first downs and everything else, if you only have the ball for especially 2 minutes and 52 seconds. That's crazy.
No, it's outrageous. And, I remember we went pretty in-depth on that. And it's a team like LSU that's what they want to do. And what that means is that they're getting first downs, that they are moving the ball, they're tiring your defense out. And you can't get a rhythm on offense if you're doing that. I mean, there's been a number of games this year that, listen, we're not going to hold the ball all day. That's not the style of offense that they run. But, man, that is certainly seesawed in an extreme amount. But LSU, they're gonna pound you. They're gonna run the rock, and that's what they did. I think if you don't have to look any further than time of possession to see why we lost this game, we just didn't have the opportunities. And there was a lot of times when we didn't take advantage of it, and we made some silly mistakes, and we weren't as crisp and sharp on offense as we had been in the past, especially on the offensive line, which you kind of see going into this game. That was going to be one of the biggest challenges, was going to be up front, and they didn't do us, many favors up there, even though that's, one of the strong points of our squad. But the time of possession, man, I mean, you said it. You don't have to go much further than that.
Yeah, well, this was a completely different ball game versus against Auburn in the Peach Bowl last year as far as dominating offensive and defensive lines.
Yep.
We handled them, and that was the thing that we all worried about last year. Well, this is the thing that happened this year.
Yeah,
we were
exactly.
dominated on the offensive and defensive line, and that's what did it. I mean, that's really
and
what did it.
And we didn't see that. It was kind of opposite. You know, we were worried about that with Auburn. Yeah, like you said, when we showed up with LSU, we weren't necessarily worried about that. I worried about it a little bit on the defensive line, but not on the offensive line as much, you know. But it certainly was a major factor in this game, was up front, and that's a little disconcerting moving forward, and that's why, you know, we talked about it last week. You get some of these recruiting classes, and I think that is the biggest star we need to put next to things is getting bigger, getting more, you know, we're plenty athletic, but getting just the depth and the size that these, you know, bigger quote unquote schools have. It's going to be something that as we grow and we want to, you know, act as if you belong, that's what you got to do.
When asked before the game who I thought would win, I said with Mackenzie Milton, UCF would win. With Darrell Mack, I thought they could win. Mack, 11 of 30, 97 yards, an interception. Getting back from Arizona, I could only really stomach a quarter a night rewatching the game. And there were certainly balls that he missed on, but he was not helped by his wide receivers. Gabe Davis dropped a couple reliable hands. Michael Kalubiali dropped a one or two. Yep. Talk about Darrell Mack's performance a couple of weeks removed from that American Championship game in which our hopes were very high for him in 2019. Should we remain optimistic? What did you see, or are you concerned about Mack's grasp of the offense and going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I truly do think you could go either way. You know, as far as me watching the game, I was just I was trying to pinpoint what he could do better, you know, what he could have done differently. And obviously there's always a million things. You can pick apart someone's game, and like I said, you could change a bunch of stuff. He did miss some throws, and he wasn't as sharp as you'd like to have seen him. You know, but in my opinion, when I was going back and watching it, I was just saying, you know, I don't feel like he's the reason we're in this situation. One, he was on the field a sparing amount. There was zero chance for him to get in a rhythm. Anytime there was, he was under a lot of pressure up front, which not necessarily is, you know, it's not his job in this style of offense to correct those things. They don't move protections. They don't add block. You know, they don't bring in guys. You're not adding a tight end into the mix. So those are the types of things that, yeah, that's where Mackenzie may change the game a little bit because of his mobility is a weird word because, you know, Darrell's obviously very athletic and very mobile, but Mackenzie, I just think, has an ability to create a little bit better. I think Darrell has plenty of ability to work within the framework of the offense and be extremely athletic, be extremely productive in the run game. I just don't think that in the atmosphere he was put in on the field, this Fiesta Bowl, it didn't shine on what his true talents are. Mackenzie's put in some of the situations, and he creates and he amazes and oohs and ahs, and that's his game. Darrell, I think, is more of in the framework of an offense and uses his athleticism to, you know, make a really nice pull and get you 14, like he showed early on in the game. Makes a really nice pull off of a zone read and gets you 14 early on and gets some momentum going, and then he makes a nice throw, and then you drive down, and it's just how the offense is supposed to work. But where, you know, it falters is when he is in the pocket and it collapses a little bit, and, you know, you get a fumble here and there, or he forces a ball that gets away from him and there's a pick. I don't know. I mean, I just think even though there's been two really big games, and he's had one phenomenal performance, and then, you know, you can go either way on his performance in the Fiesta Bowl. I do think it was, given the situation, it was good enough to win, but I do think that the subset of work, you know, our sample size is still way too small to see exactly how good of a player he's going to be long term. But I do still stand by the fact that he's an extreme talent, and he's got a lot of arm talent. He's got a super athleticism, and he does seem to get a fairly good grasp of the offense. But I just think to really put that tag on a player, to say on a quarterback specifically more so than any other position, you know, hey, does he get it? Is he a, you know, smart enough to grasp the offense. Can this offense grow? I mean, that's going to be, you need to see 6 or 7 games, in my opinion, to really see how that comes about. But, I couldn't agree with you more. I am not from the school that says, hey, if McKenzie plays, we win by 20 or 14 or whatever. But I do think it would have been a different game given the situations that the offense was put in.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about that one touchdown pass that he did throw to Gabe Davis. Yep. It was beautiful. I mean,
oh my gosh.
That pass was absolutely beautiful.
Yep, and that's the glimpse of, like, man, that's a serious talent. You know what I mean? I mean, it wasn't like, but it's not like he played terrible the rest of the game. I mean, that ball that he threw to Gabe, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. It doesn't get any more on the money. I think I even texted you right after that and was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Those are the plays where you're like, this kid absolutely has some serious talent. But how do you work that into your offense to let that shine, as a majority and not just every once in a while? I just think that the difference maker is listen, I know Gabe drops the one that was a great ball, and there's absolutely no excuse to drop. But there was one right after that there was absolutely no excuse for that ball not to be put, right in his chest, right on the money,
Right.
And it went off his hands too. That maybe could have been another catch, but I think it was, you're asking a lot there. But those are the types of things where, and I don't mean to be Monday morning quarterback. Unbelievably tough position and against a good opponent, and a lot of, you got a lot of anxiety rolling. I just think that those are the things that over the past couple of years we haven't seen McKenzie make a lot of those mistakes, and so we're sort of used to, if a throw is open, he's going to hit it and he's not going to miss it, and so those, I don't know. Moving forward, it'll be interesting to see, what happens, because obviously right now all indications are that Daryl Mack's going to be our guy, barring someone coming in or whatever that may be. But I truly believe that Coach Heupel has the ability to make him take the next step in this offseason and really grow, really get Trace, like you said, a grasp of the offense on another level. And I think that's the jump you saw McKenzie make with Coach Frost after that Cure Bowl season into the next one. You could just tell there was something different. He was a little more crisp, a little more on point. He had a little more command. And I think we'll see that jump. I sure hope we do. But that'll answer your question, in my opinion. The first 3 or 4 games of next season will answer your question.
Well, you would think that Daryl Mack would be getting that instruction now, since, we're still not sure what's going to happen as far as a grad transfer and all that stuff. But
right.
I think what you saw with him from Memphis, where he was very comfortable in the pocket, and
you talked about at times being almost too comfortable.
Right, and then what you saw against an offensive and a defensive line like LSU's. Yeah. LSU and Memphis are 2 totally different things.
Yeah,
I mean,
agree.
And this shows, more than anything, this game just showed exactly what happens.
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
yep. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then that's the difference too. It's just even a comfort level, to be able to game plan against those and for him to be comfortable with what they're doing. We talked about that. It's just him being ultra comfortable with what they're trying to do and how you have to attack defenses like that from a quarterback's perspective. And I'm not sure watching him that he was all that comfortable. It didn't seem like he was like he had the same moxie he had against Memphis, even though Memphis, he had a couple fumbles and all that, but you just feel that moxie from him, But I'm going to be honest with you. That's another point where it just comes so much down to time of possession, because I truly don't believe that he had an opportunity to really get comfortable and get some momentum going and build that. You know what I mean? And build that moxie, because that's all it takes is getting comfortable back there and getting a couple nice drives under your belt. But he never got that chance. He just didn't, And you mix in, 100 yards of penalties on both sides of the ball, but there was a lot on the offensive side. It doesn't help either, And it's just the chips were stacked constantly against Daryl Mack, getting in a rhythm, getting comfortable, and that's just a recipe for disaster. It's what we were worried about.
I take notes during the game, and on UCF's drive, my first word is trickery. Marlon Williams to Daryl Mack, 22 yards. And then I say that at the outset, trying to be a glass half full guy. Josh Heupel went 12-1 in his first year and loses by 8 to LSU. Okay, so I don't want to take anything away from Coach Heupel, But there wasn't a lot of trickery, and if we're being critical a few days removed from this game, I certainly don't think he and that game plan put Daryl Mack and the rest of the team in the best position to win. Fair, unfair criticism?
No, I mean, I think a little bit. I mean, I hate to be a broken record, but I just think that I don't know if that game would have looked differently had we had the ball a little bit more, and had we not been up by, what were we, up by 14 or 10 or something, and then you're down by 3
at one point, yeah.
Right, exactly. And then you're down by 3 for a little bit, and then they pull away. I just think, you're sort of scratching from behind a little bit. That was the reason I agree with you on one end and disagree on the next is, one, the time of possession thing throws me off, and that can just absolutely throw you into a complete tizzy as far as your game plan goes. I mean, it just will throw you off. But two, the reason I agree with you that it frustrated me is to, again, not to badger 1 point again, but the fourth down. That's such an opportunity to say, okay, this is a huge down in the game, an opportunity for us to either take control, stay in this game, or whatever you want to look at it. But for them to slow down and dial something up that we all know he has the ability to do. We all know that he has the ability to get creative, get tricky, and outsmart you. And they didn't every opportunity. They didn't take advantage of every opportunity they had, even though they were slim.
Well, I agree with the thought on time of possession, but where I am critical of the play calling is that there were a couple of times where it was Mack to AK, and it was a loss of a couple of yards and not a running play, not trying to control the line of scrimmage. And I went in and I said that I thought if Greg McCrae gets 20 to 25 carries, I'm going to feel really, really good about this game, and he ends up with 10. So I understand that UCF at the end of the day has 3 minutes in this quarter, 3 minutes, but some of the play calling didn't put them in position either. And where I also criticize the play calling, and again, it's easy for me to do on a microphone and not at the practice field with the coaches, is that this was a game in which very pronounced going in and during the broadcast that LSU was down several defensive players, and there weren't as many shots downfield as I thought there were going to be to exploit what we perceived as a weakness on LSU. So those are some of my criticisms of play calling that I don't think put UCF or Daryl Mack in the best position to win.
I would agree, and I would certainly agree. I mean, you kind of knew that about the personnel going into the game, right, about some of the DBs or whatever. But for it to get to the point of it as it got during the game, and they did take a couple of those shots, but I think even one of the broadcasters said something about, hey, I know they just took that shot, but I'd be calling that play over and over and over again. Well, you're exactly right. I mean, I think those are the things that bother you that you didn't take advantage of. I also think, I'm thinking back during the game and how we didn't exactly control the line of scrimmage at all. That's when you can really mix in some screens. It's really, you have a couple running backs that can take the top off the defense speed-wise, and you can take advantage of them in the screen game. You can take advantage of your tight ends in the screen game. If you're getting beat up front and you can't control those guys, and they had a couple blitz patches that looked like they gave us some trouble, but just from a pure size and depth standpoint, we got beaten. So why not slow those guys down with some screens? Why not slow them down with a bunch of quick passes at the line of scrimmage and use your side-to-side speed? And I don't think they did a very good job of that. Not to completely combat your point, I think they should have absolutely attacked those guys in the secondary, and it shows by the 2 opportunities they had that they missed on to Gabe. And it also shows by the 1 opportunity that they hit on to Gabe. That LSU's strength was their DBs. Going into the game, they were light, and then they lose a couple guys due to penalties. And I don't know, that maybe that was I can guarantee you now, if they could go back, that they would probably attack that a heck of a lot more if they wouldn't, shame on them. But I would completely agree with you on some of the choices of play calling.
Well, if you look at it as this is Josh Heupel's first bowl game as a head coach, this Scott Frost's first bowl game as a head coach didn't go very well at all, but the season that followed that went very, very well. I'm trying to look for positives here.
Yeah, well, and I think it's a positive too, in a way that this is still his first season with a bunch of recruits that weren't necessarily his guys, and this is an opportunity this offseason for him to not only continue to learn these guys and implement his things, but to get a couple guys that are pick from the cloth of his system. Get a couple guys that are in his recruiting classes. And, I think that's a unique change that you saw in Frost's, program, to where you see his string staff start to work out. You see his vision of what he wants his team to look like, whether that, is on offense, defense, special teams. And this is his first opportunity to really put his stamp on what this team will look like. And by no doubt, it'll look different just by default next year because of the seniors we lose and how critical a lot of those guys were to what we do. But make no mistake about it, a coach's jump from their first year to second is huge anyway, just because it's their first opportunity to get some guys involved that are, quote unquote, their guys. And we all know how, guys like to do that.
Yeah. Well, also, the offensive and defensive linemen that he's recruiting are a totally different thing as far as what we've got now. So
no doubt.
I'm looking forward to that. I mean, because it's a big change, and it's I think it will give us more opportunity to compete with teams like LSU with the type of guys that he's bringing in.
I would agree,
class.
and that's we have to have that. I mean, the only way to hang, is just to have depth and to have size. And that's, the thing I'm excited about is that that's what they went after in this class. I think it's awesome. I think it's extremely important. They're going after a different brand of player, man, and we need to. And we can. It's not like it's a stretch. UCF can recruit. They, get a couple DNs that are game changers up front. You get a couple offensive linemen that are, cut from a different cloth as far as size goes. It's going to be huge. And it was a major game changer in that game. And who knows, hopefully moving forward, it won't be.
Much being made, and rightfully so, of LSU's time possession advantage. But by that, are we giving defensive coordinator Randy Shannon and his defense a pass here? 555 yards, and you'd have gone into that game saying you want Joe Burrow to beat you, and oh boy, 21 of 34, 394 yards and 4 touchdowns. And he didn't seem to want to move out of man coverage. I mean,
that was also, I just want to say that was a game that he had not had the entire season either. This game was completely a different game than Joe Burrow had the entire year. So that was completely unexpected as far as I'm concerned.
But to that point, what did UCF's defense contribute to Joe Burrow being the MVP of that game?
Yeah, I was frustrated by just some of the way that the defense presented their strengths. I don't think was to our advantage the whole time. I think to make him beat you, you got to close the box, you got to load the box. As good of a game as Joe Burrow had, they sort of gashed us on the run and some big opportunities. I feel like every time we had them right where we want them, you gash us for 11 on the ground. And it's they had I forget the name of their kid, but he was I think over 100-yard rusher as well.
Brissett.
Yeah, exactly.
Running back. But they only rushed for 161 yards. To be honest with you, that's
true.
That's a very good showing as far as I'm concerned with how everybody had run on us, and I think that that's what they were focused on so much. Yeah. That they game planned all against stopping the run, and then kind of, dismissed Burrow, and then here's Burrow.
And it was so easy for them on the outside. I don't know if they were playing man with cushion, if they were just, trying to keep everything in front of them. Maybe they were worried that they're more athletic. I don't know. But I felt like it was so easy on the outside. Every out route he threw was just a catch and go out of bounds. It just wasn't contested, other than the pick, which even that was a sort of a gift, it kind of falls right into your arms. So it was just take advantage of a good opportunity. I don't know what to put it on the defense, but in my opinion, the reason we didn't have the ball is because our defense couldn't get them off the field.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of that simple. I don't think it was because our offense is inept. I don't think it was because our offense was making a bunch of mistakes, because they weren't. And the turnover margin is equal. I mean, you have just as many takeaways on both sides of the ball. And so what is the difference? The difference is that the clock's rolling and LSU's got the ball and we can't get them off the field. I would have liked to have seen them go to some different looks. I mean, I know that, you lose Kyle Gibson, and maybe that was a struggle for them in the back end to give your safeties a little less rope, and you don't want those guys playing zone and getting gashed. But at the same time, you got nothing to lose by changing it up a little bit, which all indications are all year that was kind of his forte, right? You come out in one look and then at halftime change it and then suddenly show up. And then this was the one game they didn't change much, and in my opinion, didn't show up at all.
Didn't happen at all in the second half. You're absolutely right.
You mentioned Kyle Gibson, back-to-back bowl games in which he's ejected, and you hate for your final play as a collegian to be an ejection in a high-profile bowl game or any game, really. In the category of what-ifs, Kyle Gibson plays that entire game. Maybe it's not an 8-point loss.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, he's the kind of guy that can change the game on defense. I mean, he's the kind of guy that will disrupt to the point and get creative to the point of maybe forcing another turnover, maybe forcing another fumble. He plays at the line of scrimmage so well, and he's in some blitz packages for them to the point where he could have had a difference. You just never know. He could have had a difference maybe on special teams, maybe blocking a kick. I mean, he's the kind of guy that is a game changer. And listen, I don't want to discount. LSU had some game changers out of the game as well, for some ejections and guys that sat out. And so, it's not like they had one arm behind their back and we didn't. On both sides of the ball, I think there's some things that, like you said, it was a big game of what ifs. All in all, I was happy with the showing that we had. I mean, I think that you throw a little more depth on our side of the ball and even out a couple of the, you give us the ball a little bit more. I know you don't give us the ball, but I think you know what you're saying. I think if the time possession is a little bit more equal, and we had a little more depth, I was just overall happy with the showing, and I think it to everybody shows we kind of belong, if you will. Not a win by any means. No loss is ever a win, but at the same time, I think there's a lot to build on from this game.
Absolutely. It's only an 8-point loss to LSU. And that's what I keep saying.
A good LSU team,
That's always an SEC power. They've been good for a long time. They have national championships. It's not like they're, Arkansas State or whatever,
right. Or even Arkansas,
that game, the Arkansas State Cure Bowl was much different than this game. That game honestly was kind of embarrassing. That's the kind of game that's embarrassing. I don't think that this game at all was embarrassing.
Absolutely, I completely agree.
Yeah, and I just think that there's many positives to take from this, and it's over. Thank God this is the last episode of this show that we're going to be talking about this game, because I don't want to talk about it ever again.
I know.
Personally.
It's even so hard for me to think back, and it's not like I'm mad or frustrated. It's just like it's a tough game to digest.
It was a nightmare, and you could tell when I personally think when Kyle Gibson got ejected, the wind went out of our sails. That was when everybody just kind of I don't think they laid down, but it just seemed like the momentum shifted so much at that point for us that it was not going to happen ever since then. And that's kind of where
stuff
I
like
thought
that happens in your game. That it's just like, man, is anything going to go our way? You know what I mean? Are we going to get a break here?
To me, that was the beginning of the end, personally. I thought that when it happened, because before that, the other stupid penalty of spiking the ball or whatever that was, and that was, purely a rookie mistake, I think. But that kid's going to be incredible, an incredible football player. It's not like that one play is going to be the highlight of his career. That is absolutely 100%. Not true, and you're going to see a lot of him.
Yeah, I agree, but I got to tell you, I think. Listen, I don't condone that, and it's against the rules, and you're not supposed to do that. I think it was an extremely ticky-tacky call.
There was a lot of ticky-tacky calls in this game, and,
I thought
all the ejections from targeting and everything else were ticky-tacky as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. I mean, officiating as a whole, I thought was terrible on both sides. For both teams.
Right.
And
officials should not influence the the way a game ends, and they did.
And they did.
Yeah.
And they did, yeah. And that was the one call at the spike that I was just like, man, that's dumb. You can't do stuff like that. But then you're like, but really?
There was other stuff that they let go that was way bigger than that. There was all kinds of pass interference. There was all kinds of holding, but they want to call that, and the targeting penalties is what they wanted to call. They wanted to be seen, I think.
Right, and this is a game that you get your point across on the targeting stuff and what they're trying to take away from the game. Hey, I get it. I'm all about it. I'm all about safety, and that's great. But they seriously influenced the game, like you said, and that should never happen. But that was, an example. There's one right there with that spike that's just like, hey, man, that's dumb. But really, man, that's a huge swing. Huge swing.
One of the marks of a good program is putting guys in the pros, and we know the impact of last year's class in the NFL. Mike Hughes, Shaquem Griffin, two notable names in that, Jordan Akins as well. Your reaction to news following the Fiesta Bowl, Tristan Hill declaring for the NFL, and then Sunday, Dredrick Snelson announcing his plans to throw his hat in the ring there. What's your reaction to those two?
Yeah, certainly two outstanding football players that have done a tremendous amount for our program. Two guys that come in at a time our program really took an upswing and then had an outstanding impact. They'll be sorely missed, both of them. I think they're both outstanding dudes. They're both great men, and they have bright futures ahead. I'll start with Dredrick. I'm sucks to see him go. I'll say that. He's one of my favorite players that we've got. I love the way he plays the game. I like what he brings to the offense. He's extremely versatile, kind of keeps his head down, and all he does is produce. You never see him dropping balls. You never see him making mistakes. All you see him do is block downfield and make big catches. I just think he's a guy that I think there's a place for him at the next level. He's not your prototypical receiver, but he's the type of receiver that in the NFL is becoming. Every team's got a guy like him. Every team's got a guy that he can play, two or three positions on the offense, as far as he can play outside in a couple different situations, but he's going to wreak havoc in the slot. He's going to wreak havoc coming out of the backfield a little bit. I think he's got a huge future. Tristan obviously has been tremendous for us on defense. He's a great talent. He's very young. He's extremely young, and I hope that he's making the right decision just based on that. I mean, in years past, just age alone can be a hindrance to maturity and just your ability to be a professional. And you just never know if people are truly ready for that at that young of an age. But he's a talent. He's a physical specimen. He's a great player. I really wish we would have gotten more out of him this year from a production standpoint. And I don't know what the holdup was, but I thought he would be more dominant, to be honest with you. And he really wasn't. But again, two outstanding players, two outstanding men. Really excited for those guys. Anytime anyone decides that, whether you agree or disagree with it, I can do nothing but wish you the best, and I do for both of those guys, certainly.
I think that there was some stuff behind the scenes as far as Tristan goes as well, because he wasn't in the good graces of the new regime nearly like he was before, and I think that had a huge deal to do with it. I just don't think the way that he handled it at the time, I don't think that that's the time to come out and say that you're going to the NFL.
Right.
With a pre-written statement, that was ready, obviously, before the game and all that stuff. And then I don't know if you read that statement, but he didn't thank any of the current coaches at all. So
he didn't.
That was kind of weird.
I did. I'm never a fan of those things, I feel like.
There was obvious animosity. So
100%.
But if that's the case, go for it. I'm
exactly.
like... If you're unhappy, then go do the next thing. Either transfer or go to the NFL, whatever it is. If you're not happy, you're not going to give your total performance, I don't believe.
No.
So.
And he didn't this year. I mean, it's very evident. I mean, we talked about it in a couple recaps. I mean, it's like, kind of, where is he? As based on how he was 2 years ago, or whatever, a year ago, whatever it was. I don't know. I think he's a tremendous talent, got a ton of ability, but if that's with certain stuff like that can affect you to that point, who knows?
For a
that could be a
program,
maturity thing.
For a program as young as UCF's, it seems fair to use both Fiesta Bowls as benchmarks of where UCF is. It certainly seems, while you don't want to end on a loss, that the program is in much better position to, as I said to Andrew on Knightline Postgame Live, reload rather than have to rebuild, even with the loss to graduation or some of these guys leaving early. It seems like things are poised to build upon themselves. And for that, as an alum, I feel good even in defeat.
I would agree. Being around the program after that first Fiesta Bowl, we weren't exactly in shape personnel-wise to reload like we are now. We're missing it. We're going to lose a great deal from this roster. The Wyatt Millers of the world, Kyle Gibson, Joey Connors, Cougs, all those guys that I'm just telling you, this is the most, in my opinion, one of the most important senior classes in the history of UCF football. I think in my mind, it goes down as the most important class. They were the senior class that kind of turned this thing around, and with good reason. There's a lot of talent, a lot of hard workers on that, a lot of leaders. But at the same time, I think if you look deeper than that, there's a lot that we still have sitting around. I don't think it was that way coming out of the other Fiesta Bowl. We lost a lot of talent, obviously, to the NFL that year. But as far as depth goes, I feel like we're in much better shape. And, we could get into that by position, but I don't think that's necessary. I think you can watch our team and see who produces and know, that we've got some more depth on both sides of the ball. And I think on the defensive side of the ball, even more exciting, that I think most of our talent is young and underdeveloped. And some of the recruits that they're bringing in as far as the defensive line goes and size and some of the linebackers, you bring up Charlton earlier and what kind of player he's going to be for that defense. I mean, this is a team that's got some serious talent coming back, and extremely, extremely excited. And, guys like Otis Anderson that can kind of move the needle as far as speed and talent go. You get Greg McCrae coming back, and you got talent, Marlon Williams and these guys. I mean, there's a ton of talent running around, and I'm excited to see where they go. But I would agree. I think we're in good shape to reload and grow, though.
And I would think even with the way that this season ended, I personally think that this recruiting class is going to be a really, really big one with the players that they've already seen that they're bringing in. And I think there is a couple more that are waiting out there as well. So I think that we've got really, really big things ahead of us. This is definitely not the end of anything. It may be the end of the era of those seniors, but it's the beginning of the rest of everybody else. So.
I think it's the beginning of UCF's true ascendance. Obviously the ascendance kind of starts with Frost and going undefeated and winning the Peach Bowl, but I think this is you're on the upswing of UCF truly kind of being on the map and asserting themselves to be here for a while. I would agree with you. I mean, I hate to see this senior class go just because, like I said, I think they're great. But at the same time, I would agree with you 100% that I think based on what they're bringing in and the guys that they have, I think UCF's here to stay. And I couldn't be more excited to see what's down the pipe.
All right. Well, Nick, thank you so much for going through this whole thing with us, doing the things with me on the Wednesday nights and Thursdays and all that stuff. Really appreciate everything that you've done for us and Knight Nation this season.
Absolutely. It's been an awesome ride. Love joining you guys. Thank you for having me and letting me spitball a bunch of crazy ideas about this winning streak. It's been an extremely fun time, and I thank you for having me.
All right, good stuff from Nick. I like the beginning. Yeah, great. Happy New Year.
Yeah. I don't think anybody wants to remember this new year, to be honest with you.
I have really enjoyed, and I hear this from a lot of people who enjoy listening to Nick's insights, and I'm really just so glad he and Kyle and Ben and others, just part of the Knightline team of people. He's provided good analysis, and it's been a while since we've had to recap when things don't go right. He's
a smart guy, so it's awesome to have him and all the rest of them with us.
And, of course, we'll hear from him from time to time throughout the year as there are other things to talk about. We're checking in on our Knights in the NFL and with the new Orlando Apollos of the Alliance League, plus who might get shredded this week, next, only on Knightline.
You've heard us talk about the great food at our good friend Kyle Israel's restaurant, The Little Greek Fresh Grill. The Little Greek now has franchises available. Please call 407-697-2272. That's 407-697-2272 to see what The Little Greek can do for you. Also, check out The Little Greek's newest location at 6536 Old Brick Road in Windermere, Florida. The Little Greek Fresh Grill. Fresh, flavorful, fabulous.
It was so 2018 for us to fire up the shredder. It just seemed like a good idea to do again in 2019.
Yeah, no, it's great.
We got pretty good reaction to that.
Yeah.
However, with the holiday and the bowl and the travel and the loss, there is only so much time. I had to go back to work.
Yeah.
At some point.
Well, I had to work in there in the middle.
Yeah. So I only have one.
Okay.
For us, but I thought you would enjoy it. I thought it could lead to a little.
Is it shredder worthy?
Well, I don't know. Well, I think it will be shredder worthy for you, but I don't think it would be for me.
And you're just giving it to me
just
to
giving
read.
it to you to read.
Oh, God. We'll see what this is. Juan Toribio on Twitter, our good friend. Oh, yeah, this is ridiculous.
I knew you would like this one.
Our good friend that used to be the 24/7 sports guy on Twitter, he posted this January 1st, 2019, Miss You Frost. You gotta be kidding me.
Whatever. I knew you would not like that one.
Oh, Juan, what is it that you cover these days? Baseball?
The Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, well, good luck over there, buddy. Because we don't need this.
So here's why I said
Juan just got shredded.
I knew you would
shred. Juan's listening.
I knew you would shred one, but I agree with him.
Oh, come on.
We're
not debating this.
Scott Frost wins that game.
We're not debating this. The Cure Bowl was the last time that we lost. Who was the head coach? Scott Frost. Was that a debacle against a team? Scott Frost would not have won this game.
I'm saying Scott Frost wins that
Absolutely
game.
Not.
Against LSU.
Absolutely not. With Daryl Mack?
I think Scott Frost wins it.
Nope. Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
It's an interesting discussion, though.
No. It was not coaching that lost this game. It was not coaching that lost the game.
I think it was a
You know
contributing
nothing
factor.
about football. Dude, I'm pissed now. You know nothing about football.
I didn't say
well, he doesn't really know too much either. But you know nothing about football if you think that was coaching that lost that game.
I said contributing factor.
Yeah, but that's not a reason to call out saying that you miss Scott Frost.
I don't know that I quote unquote. Well, no, he said that, but
Scott Frost,
think
number
Frost wins
one,
the game.
has done so much backhanded asshole freaking
not
things.
that stuff.
And that's
just
one
talking about
reason
winning
that
the
I
game.
don't miss Scott Frost. That's another reason I don't miss Scott Frost. Calling our players after our championship game and trying to get them to transfer.
No, I'm with you. on
No,
all that.
but I don't miss Scott Frost. And I don't think that Scott Frost would have won that game. I do not. Absolutely not. It had nothing to do with coaching. It had to do with being dominated on the offensive and defensive line, period. That's what it had to do with.
See, that's why I thought one was enough for this week. I thought that was a healthy one.
You had to piss me off, didn't you?
That's one.
That pisses me off.
It's one.
Well, it pisses me off that you think that you agree.
Not that I miss Frost.
But you agree that you think that Scott Frost would have won that game for us versus Josh Heupel. That is absolutely 100% wrong.
One of us people will agree with one of us or the other.
Absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong.
So just one and fire up the shredder.
God.
We'll have
I'm
more,
about to put you in the freaking shredder, my friend. If you had some hair, it would go in. You'd go in a lot quicker.
Now, Mac Loudermilk is going to cut his hair for charity.
Oh boy. No, it's great. No, I think it's great. I love that he's doing that. I'm still a little fired up here.
I'm interested in getting some of that hair.
Wow. Okay, Trace. Wow.
What?
I'm a little fired up.
It's the off season.
Scott Frost would have not won that game. Just remember
that may
his
be a
first.
Good poll
remember his
this week.
first bowl game. Well, no, the Scott Frost hanger-oners, the guys that like to whatever Scott Frost will agree, and then the ones that don't.
How do you think it'll turn out, though? If I put that as a poll question,
do it.
I don't know how it'll turn out.
Who knows? I don't even think that should be. It's going to piss people off because I don't even think it should be a topic. I know that Juan pissed a lot of people off on Twitter.
He got a little reaction to that one.
Yeah. So I don't think that
just one.
I don't think that we should put that as a Twitter thing.
I've had this hangover from the game where I haven't been on Twitter much. It's just
I
too
know
much for me.
you're hurting our stats, my friend. You're hurting our.
I just
stats.
couldn't read it all. It's just too
Well,
much.
it's good in a way to not be on there after this a little bit, but we as a thing we have to continue what we started with Twitter because our Twitter's really rocking. So we have to get over.
Hangover.
We have to get over that.
Plus flights and travel.
No, I know,
and
but
time zones and work.
Now
and
we
there's
have
only so much
to.
time.
Now we have to get over that. I've been on there a bit. I haven't done anything too crazy. All right, Knights in the NFL, real quick here. Couple things. We had Shaquille Griffin, Traquan Smith, Clayton Geathers, Jordan Akins, Shaquem Griffin, and J-Rob. I guess that's Josh Robinson.
Yeah.
All in the playoffs. And I believe we've only got Traquan Smith, Clayton Geathers, and where's Josh Robinson right now? Oh, he's at the Saints.
So they had a
too.
bye week. So.
Okay. So, yeah. So we've got those guys left and in there. And then the other cool thing about this, talking about the NFL, is that Shaquem Griffin's jersey sales at Dick's this season he's number 7 out of all the guys in the NFL.
Rookies.
Oh, out of all the rookies. Oh, okay. So number 7 with the rookies in the NFL of jersey sales, which is cool. I thought he'd be a lot higher than that, to be honest
Really?
with you.
Yeah, no, I thought the
just
7
because
was
of
pretty
his
good.
story and all that stuff.
I mean, he's behind Saquon Barkley and Baker Mayfield, high-profile players.
Well, I mean, I don't think there's any more high profile
Yeah, no.
of a player personally.
I think it's still good.
All right, we're going to argue about that.
No, it's good
everything.
news. No, that's good
It's all
news.
good.
that
It
he's
is.
7.
It is.
Yeah,
It
that's
is.
huge.
It is. It's good news. All right, what else?
And the Orlando Apollos have broken camp. I mean,
oh yeah, that's on there too. I'm sorry, I forgot about that.
8 or 9 guys are going to be.
This is going to be a weird thing for us to cover, and we were talking about this a little bit before we came on tonight. We want to cover the Apollos, but we want to cover the Apollos for a couple different reasons. One of the reasons is that they are playing at UCF in Bright House Network Stadium, or Spectrum Stadium, I guess it's now called. I still refer to it as Bright House. The other thing is that there's like 8 of our players, our former players on there, and we do cover, former players, obviously. So I know we say we're Knights all the time, so that still is all Knights all the time because we're talking about our Knights being on there. Now, we may have some guys come on from that Apollos team that aren't former Knights. And
we got to figure that out.
You can judge us however you want, I guess, on that. But maybe
try and give it a UCF.
We're going to try to give it a UCF slant. But I think that we should cover this Apollos because I think it's pretty cool. It's at least at UCF.
What's your interest in going to games?
I'll go. It'll get me through the football off season a little bit.
It's just a 10-week season,
Yeah,
regular season.
There's only 5 games at home.
5 home
right?
games.
Yeah. So and
tailgating.
Yeah, there could be definite tailgating.
I have friends coming to town for the first game, and they want to tailgate.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's do it.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
There we go.
Okay. There we go.
I mean, opportunity to talk to some former Knights, and their head coach is Steve Spurrier, and he's been generally supportive of UCF the last year or two and their quest to break through. And so,
I bet he'll be even more supportive now, just being in the building. I think that will be.
See, there's an
a
angle.
good thing.
There's a thing to ask.
Yeah.
And he's got Jeff Godfrey, Chris Martin, Renell Hall,
I wonder
other players.
if one day he'll be a special advisor to the Knights or something. There's a couple. I don't know. Is George O'Leary still doing that?
We're still paying him.
I doubt that he's doing that, but we're probably still paying him. You're right.
So your Chiefs got a bye week, so
it's great. I'm loving it.
Next week.
Well, we don't do very well in the playoffs, but hopefully
It's
this
a
year.
different team.
Hopefully this year. We have the MVP of the entire NFL.
Of that
as far
group,
as I'm concerned.
San Diego, Indy, New England, and Kansas City. Not just because of you. I think the most fun team to watch would be Kansas City in a Super Bowl.
Well, yeah. I mean,
they're exciting
I
to
think
watch.
the most fun Super Bowl to watch would be Kansas City and the Rams, personally.
Or New Orleans.
Take
the over.
Oh, I don't want I would rather it not be New Orleans. Just because of all the Knights that are on that team, I would have to root against them, and I really don't want to do that. So I'm already having a problem with Clayton Geathers this week.
Chiefs used to have all kinds of Knights, and now none. None Knights.
Yeah.
None Knights.
I think Jacoby Glenn technically is still on the Chiefs. He's listed on their
practice squad.
He's on their physically unable to perform thing, so he is technically still on the roster.
Ah, gotcha.
But that's it.
There you go. There you go. History made for men's basketball in Connecticut. We're talking about the 12-2 Knights with Ben Stout. Knightline. Check us out right now at KnightlineSports.com.
Hey, Night Nation. It's Adam from the Sons of UCF. Be sure to check out our show every Wednesday only on the Knightline Sports Network. Now, back to two guys who probably won't be Cow of the Week nominees, Andrew and Trace.
This segment is brought to you by Scouted, the app where athletes of all ages get exposed, discovered, and recruited. Download for free on the Apple Store or Google Play and get discovered today.
Men's basketball gets a big monkey off its back. First ever win in Connecticut, knocking off the Huskies 65-53. Junior guard Aubrey Dawkins with a season-high 23 points. With the midweek conference opening win over Temple, the Knights are 2-0 in league play, 12-2 overall. Let's talk about it with former UCF men's basketball player Ben Stout, who's inside the paint and on the Knightline hotline. Ben, first of all, Happy New Year. Secondly, what craft beer did you ring in 2019 with?
Well, Happy New Year to you guys. Hope you all are doing well. Hope you had a good holiday season. Actually, I had an IPA, and I can't think of the name of it, from my wife and I went over to Red Cypress Brewery near Winter Springs there on New Year's Eve. Not until midnight, but we were there on New Year's Eve and had a couple of good IPAs there that were really quality. So I can't quite remember the name of it, but there's some good ones at that brewery.
Strong choice on that brewery. And solid start to 2019 for the Knights, back-to-back conference wins, and especially fairly strong performance there in Connecticut.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really a great start to the conference, kind of conference stretch here. At the second half of the season, it was great to get a win up at Connecticut. We've beaten them on a neutral site, and I think we've beat them maybe once or twice at home, but never on the road. So it was fantastic to go up there to Stores and not to win against a tough team that has kind of a different style than we're accustomed to. So it was good to see.
Talk about the performance of Aubrey Dawkins. As each game has passed, he seems to get more and more comfortable with this team.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say enough about Aubrey. He's an incredible athlete. He shoots the ball very fast. His kind of shooting motion is extremely quick. It's faster than most any player, regardless of what level they're playing at. Shoots at. So he's just a great player, and he seems to have learned a lot from his dad as far as demeanor and leadership, because he's taken on a very quiet confidence leadership role with this team, and he's let the game come to him a little bit. He's kind of let the gelling of this team and his place on this team kind of happen organically over these first 14 games of the season, and especially, I'd say probably over the last 3 or 4 games, Aubrey has just stepped into his role. You can see him attacking more, especially at UConn yesterday. He seems to kind of feel more comfortable with the players around him, and it's kind of, he feels more free to attack, and once you see him kind of put that foot on the gas, he's an impressive player. So it's great to see him kind of find his place.
As we've come to expect from Coach Heupel on the football side and his mantra of 1-0 every week, we've come to learn from Johnny Dawkins and his team, they're always preaching defense. The defense creates offense. They hold UConn to 23 second-half points. Defense really clamped down.
Yeah, they absolutely did. That's certainly the identity of this team, is everything is going to stem off their great team defense. For the most part, they use this unique Obviously anything is unique when you've got somebody who's 7'6", 7'7" in the center, kind of anchoring that defense. But they use this unique matchup zone where they're really flying to the basketball and cutting down passing lanes and getting steals that way. They make teams, regardless of how good the team that we're playing against, they make them kind of more hesitant. They make them seem less confident with the basketball because there's always somebody there in front of their face, either changing shots, whether it be Taco or Colin in the middle, or just pressing up on their man and kind of getting into those passing lanes like our guards are so good at doing. From somebody who considers myself more of a basketball purist, just watching us play defense is really a thing of beauty. It's quite fun to watch from my perspective. So.
In the preseason at Media Day, I spoke with Terrell Allen in particular, and we talked about how you don't ever want to have injuries, but the blessing in the injuries is it gives a lot of guys playing time, Terrell Allen being one of them. I look at the box score from the Saturday game at UConn. Dayon Griffin, 9 points in 20 minutes. There's a 6th, 7th, 8th guy who have some experience that coming off the bench really can contribute for these nights.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch. Talking with Coach Dawkins at an event this summer, this off season, one of the things that, he talked a lot about the injuries, because that's the type of questions that he always asks or gets asked. And we talked a little bit about that. One of the things that he said was it was kind of crazy from a discipline standpoint because somebody makes a mistake on the court or makes maybe a bonehead decision, and your immediate instinct as a coach is to take them out of the game. And, he would look back last season at the bench, and there's not many players that could come in there and create at a high level. And it's the exact opposite this season. So I'm sure he's kind of acting like a kid in a candy store. It's fun to watch. Every game, you mentioned Dayon yesterday. He had a great game against UConn, really stepped up and had his best game of the season coming off the bench. But whether it's Frank Burtz, who's been a great addition to the team this year, Cesar DeJesus has had a couple of bright moments since he's been back from his injury. And then, of course, you get that consistency off the bench of Chad Brown, that consistency, that energy. There's a lot of guys that can come in off of the bench and provide a spark for our team. And it's a lot of fun to watch. And it's good, too, because we have to have that depth, not only if, God forbid, we were to have another injury to one of our starters, but also certain teams like UConn, like we'll play Memphis later this year. There's certain teams in this conference that are going to try to play at a lot of pace, and it'll be good. It's good to have that production coming off the bench to mix up those lineups.
Most important figure, of course, is UCF wins 65-53 at UConn, but the surprising statistic for me is that UCF was out-rebounded 37-23. What do you make of that, if anything?
Against UConn?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it was just the way the game kind of was going, especially in the second half. A lot of people I saw on Twitter yesterday as the game was going on and as the game came to a close, they're just how do we get out rebounded on the offensive rebound 17-0, and I thought about it more and more, and you never want to give up 17 rebounds, so that's 17 offensive rebounds, so that's the most concerning and something that Coach Dawkins is going to have to address is how we keep the opposing team off the offensive glass. But having the zero offensive rebounds from our standpoint is kind of a fluke. You look at our field goal percentage. We shot 61% from the field yesterday. So there's not many opportunities to have an offensive rebounds if you're making a lot of shots. So I think that this team has the ability to rebound at a high clip, and I think the game just got a little bit sloppy yesterday, and didn't give us much opportunity to win that rebounding battle. But I don't know the exact statistics, but we win that rebounding battle, we're going to win a lot of games. So we're going to need to make sure we're blocking out, especially on the, keeping them off the offensive glass and cleaning that up.
Can't tell you how many times Coach Dawkins has been asked in post-game about free throw shooting, and his answer is always the same, that they shoot better in practice, and it just doesn't typically translate during the game. Against Temple earlier in the week, 16 of 28. Against UConn, 20 of 29. Still feels to me that in a tight conference game, a conference tournament game, or postseason, NCAA, NIT, what have you, that remains an Achilles heel for this team.
It really is. It is a concern. There's no doubt about that, and it's the reason why, Coach keeps getting those questions after every game, because one of these games, it's going to hurt us, and especially in down the stretch. We luckily, BJ and Aubrey, they're fantastic free throw shooters. I think those two guys we can really rely on, and to an extent, Terrell Allen, but. I believe that Taco can contribute on both ends of the floor with a lot of consistency. And when you've got one of the more unique players in college basketball on your team, you want to be able to have him in clutch situations. And it's a problem when when that unique player who you want to have in the game, it's impossible to have him in the game because he's shooting at a 27% free throw percentage, clip. So I think there's some fundamentals that we need to clean up there. I hope that it'll improve. If Taco can get the free throw percentage up closer to the 50% mark throughout the season, I think it'll show a lot of maturity on his end. You can see that he's put in some effort. He kind of has altered his free throw routine a little bit towards the last 5 or 6 games, and he's had a little bit of success with that. But man, you're right. It's one of those things from the free throw shooting part where teams will feel like they'll always be able to come back in games if they can start hacking Taco, or they can start hacking our big men that just can't shoot free throws at a high level.
You mentioned all of the coaches that dominate Twitter, all of the fans who seem to know more about the game than anyone else. You can find Ben Stout at BigSocial32. One of your posts I think we should end with, it comes during the UConn or at the end of the UConn game. You say, "It's crazy to watch us play teams like Bama, UConn, and Temple and see the clear talent gap in our favor. I can't remember a time in UCF men's basketball history where it was this obvious. Coach Dawkins and his staff have put the right pieces in place and coached them up extremely well." Seems like a good jumping off point for us. It's a week in which UCF doesn't have a game until next Sunday. ECU comes to town. ECU knocks off Cincinnati. So that just goes to show you, as the cliche goes on any given day, anybody can beat anybody, especially when you get into league play.
Yes, absolutely. Like I've said on a few talks before with you guys, our conference this year is going to be tougher than ever. And so you're right. A team like ECU, who you wouldn't expect to be put up much of a fight against usually an elite conference team in Cincinnati, they go against that team and pull out a win. ECU is going to be a tough test. It's actually great that we played against a little bit of a smaller team in UConn this past game, because I think that'll prepare us well for ECU. I don't know a ton about them, but I know that they don't have a whole lot of size, and they're a pretty young team. Their best player is a freshman named Jaden Gardner, who is probably top 3 in the conference as far as, candidate for freshman of the year. He's averaging over 18 points a game, close to 9 rebounds a game. He's a really impressive player from the forward spot. So we're going to have to contain him. So it'll be a good test. I know people look at ECU and, don't think much of them with the type of traditional powers that we have in the conference, but any team is dangerous in this conference, so we're going to have to make sure that we play great defense and play nice basketball, that's for sure.
Ben Stout, basketball insider, only on Knightline, and, as we said at the outset, craft beer aficionado.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me.
Got to have Ben over just to drink.
Yeah, absolutely.
He knows his beer.
You know, speaking of beer real quick, Roger Nightbingle came over. I talked about that to watch the game, and we had a Stout fest because we had he brought, I think, 12 different stouts or something,
Really?
just 2 bottles of each or 6 or I don't know. But we drank a lot of stouts, and we had a bunch of different ones, and they were really good. I'm a stout guy. Either stout or cheap American beer. So none of the IPAs like you and Ben are.
That's me on the
not
IPA.
Not the IPAs, no.
Taking a look at your Nightline planner. Women's basketball heads to Tampa Tuesday. Sorry, ladies. January 8th for a War on I-4 matchup with the Cows before returning home to welcome Cincinnati on Sunday the 13th at noon. Men's basketball, a few extra days rest there before ECU arrives for a 4 p.m. game with the Knights on the 13th. What are you going to do with those lucky shirts when the luck runs out? That's an Ask Knightline. Knightline number 176 returns in just a moment. Spice up your company with homemade marketing services from Tasty Gravy Creative. Tasty Gravy serves up a menu of budget-friendly marketing, graphic design, and public relations services customized to your specific goals. Co-owned by a UCF graduate, Tasty Gravy can help refresh your brand, strengthen your online presence, or reinforce your company's message. Contact Tasty Gravy for help with your website, social media, marketing, advertising materials, and more. Visit tastygravy.com.
Ask a Nightline is brought to you by Chad Barr Law. Chad is a UCF alumnus and diehard Knights fan. Chad Barr Law handles auto accident, slip and fall, and personal injury cases. Call Chad today at 407-599-9036 for a free consultation. That's 407-599-9036. Armor up and call Chad Barr Law today.
Time again to answer your Ask Nightline questions that you send to us on Facebook or at Twitter via the hashtag Ask Nightline. Now, I'm going to say on some of these, I want to punt on a couple of them because there are a lot of assess the recruiting class, talk about next season, and I just don't have my head around some of those
we've
things.
got
To be
a long
honest with
time
you,
to do that.
I'm going to save the questions, and I haven't mentioned this yet, but it was about this time last year when we debuted the Nightliner Awards. So that's something I think maybe we'll have categories
we can get going into that,
and we can talk about and maybe
Twitter polls,
and maybe we can talk about position by position, week by week, just a breakdown where we are at the quarterback position, and each position.
Well, we're going to find out a little bit more about the quarterback position later on in the week, I believe, because there's some big talk of a couple of transfers.
It'd be
possible.
interesting. So just so you know, as we get through these questions, if you hear us punt, that's why. It's just I don't know. We haven't had the time to think about some of these things.
I agree.
At Golden Knight _2, what are your top activities that you do to numb the sting of losing a game? I forgot what to do since it's been a while. For
drink, drink, and drink.
For me, it's been taking a little bit of a break on social media. I just couldn't read all the articles. To be
It's
honest
true.
with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I just needed to get out of it for a while.
And I drank.
You drank.
I haven't stopped.
I couldn't watch more than a quarter a night of the game.
I didn't say what I drank.
No.
Could have been water.
I'm curious what others of you have done, but I had to take a break just to decompress a little bit, and I'll get my mojo back, and we'll be ready to roll. At Mania Morris, Happy New Year, AP and TT. By the way, I think it's funny. You can tell we get a lot of new listeners because you'll have people say, what does the AP mean?
Yeah.
And what does the TT mean? It's just our initials, guys. Sorry, Jen, still not ready to talk about it, though. Just keep replaying in my head. Did we get outplayed or just plainly outcoached?
Outplayed.
I'm between
100%
those.
outplayed.
I'm between those.
100% outplayed.
I think we got a little outplayed, and I
Who's
think we got a little
the guy
outcoached.
that played football? That would be me.
I'm splitting the difference on those. At L Bar 87, with Milton's injury and the departure of key players, do you think we take a step back, or do we keep it rolling as we welcome big-time recruits?
Completely keep it rolling. There's no stepping back from this. It's full on.
But does that mean 12-0? I mean,
no, you never know.
I mean, is 9-3?
I'm not looking at the schedule yet.
No, I know.
I'm not looking at it.
I know, but you know what I mean? Is a 9-3? Remember, coming off of the last Fiesta Bowl, that's what happened.
There's no reason that we couldn't go 12-0 again. There's no reason.
At me and Angus, will players at the line of scrimmage be bigger and better next year, or will it take several seasons for Heupel to build the lineup? Also, is bigger necessarily better given our style of play with a quarterback like Milton? This is one where, because of the early signing period, and then we had Christmas come, and then we had a bowl preview show, we haven't had a time to talk.
Well, no, I can answer this.
That's what I want to.
Yeah.
But I'm saying I want to talk about the recruiting class.
Well,
next
if
week.
you look at the recruiting class, even though we'll talk about it next week, if you look at the recruiting class, compare the last two recruiting classes and look at the difference with the offensive linemen and the defensive linemen and their size. There's height and weight on each one of those dudes. Look at them. It's a big difference. Much bigger guys that Heupel wants on the offensive line because he wants to run the ball. Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. So,
Andrew on Facebook, LSU exposed and pushed to the limit what I believe were the two major weaknesses on our team this season, which was tackling, defense and special teams, and pass coverage, with a possible third being the inside run blocking. What should UCF do to improve those areas in the offseason? I think he's right. Those were areas of concern. You know, by the way, I thought about this as I watched the replay of the game. There was no standout return in the punt or kicking game the entire season.
No. The rules are changed a little bit on the punt and kickoff.
Yeah,
so
fair catches.
You're not gonna. I don't think you're gonna see nearly as many of them, and that's what they want to stop. So it's successful, unfortunately.
One season earlier with that rule, and we may never have had the Mike Hughes return.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely true. But I mean, there's still some that were. I think Killens ran one back to like the 50 one time, but I don't think there was one return for a touchdown ever this year.
So what do you think on Andrew's question? What should UCF do to improve in those areas? Is it just continue to recruit?
Continue to recruit and coach up the players that we have, because we have a lot of players still. You're going to see all kinds of new names next year. You're going to not know some of them because they're going to be guys that were in this recruiting class that Heupel's going to play just because they're his guys. We've talked about that. And then you're going to see there's going to be guys that maybe were on the practice squad that you didn't see. There's quite a few people moving on from those lines. So I think that's going to be a big difference.
In fairness to Randy Shannon and his defense, there was a switchover in the defense. Much of a contributing factor. I mean, again, this is a team that went 12-1. But he didn't have all of the type of players that he wants to fit his scheme.
Absolutely not. No. Yeah,
right.
Absolutely not.
And you could see that in the recruiting class, that there were
You'll
more
see
of those type of guys.
The big linebackers and stuff like that as well, instead of the small linebackers like Frost and Chenander wanted. So.
We joked about Kalubiali being on that last Fiesta Bowl team, but if you think about this was the last of the O'Leary players.
Yep.
And you have players that were O'Leary that O'Leary era, the Frost 2-year era, and Heupel. That's a lot of turnover in coaches and personnel, and that they've been able to do.
Another couple of years we'll be through with the Frost guys, and then it'll hopefully be all Heupel guys at that point.
A couple of questions along the same thing. At Fear the Pegasus and Chris on Facebook asking, aside from Tristan Hill and Dredrick Snelson, do you see any other underclassmen declaring for the NFL draft? And Fear the Pegasus asks, what are your thoughts on starting lineup for next season?
Not even close.
We're not there.
Not even close.
But we'll get back to it. We will get back to it.
But as far as the underclassmen declaring for the draft, only one more that I can think of, and we're not sure still what's happening with that. But if you follow our Twitter in the next week or so, I think that I will have some insight on this guy, and that would be Neville Clark. Still waiting for his decision on that, but the time is ticking away very, very quickly. But I think it's going to be surprising. We'll just say that.
At UCF_Knightline, and what's your personal Twitter as well?
It's AP_Knightline.
Follow now. At Redskins_fan with 2 N's. What's your best predictions for how the quarterback scenario plays out next year? Should they allow Dylan Gabriel to compete right away and use a year of eligibility, or do we redshirt him? Oh, too soon.
Why would a guy make Redskins fan with 2 N's? What is that supposed to mean? Is that like
fan with 1 N was already taken?
Is it like N with 1 N and 2 N's and an E at the end? What is that? I'm just wondering. All right.
I think it's too soon to really start to dissect the quarterback situation.
Yeah.
But again, this is one where we're just we're delaying the game on this one.
As far as the red shirt thing, though, they've got 4 games to play. They can play 4 full games now with the new. Last year this was, and then this year it'll be 4 full games that they can play and not lose their red shirt.
Richard on Facebook asking anything new on future Power 5 games. Not heard anything, but I thought his other question was interesting. Should we establish a priority of scheduling P5 over G5 and G5 over 1AA games and try to upgrade some of the lower priority games we currently have on the schedule? I'll tell you what I'd love to see us play a Boise State, to be honest with you, or some of those Mountain West games.
That would just hurt our strength of schedule.
More than Florida A&M?
I'm just playing. That's what I said to some Boise State guy that was popping off on Twitter or Facebook the other day. I was like, hey, we should just settle this on the field. Bring it to Orlando. And then I was like, oh, wait, that would hurt our strength of schedule. So stop.
A lot of programs don't want to play UCF, but a lot of fan bases seem to want to.
Yeah. Well, if it was up to the fan bases, this thing would be completely different, I think.
Yeah.
I think we'd have an all-year tournament going on.
And then several of the same variation here. So Tim on Facebook says, my lucky anthracite jersey seems to have finally failed. What do I do next season? Keep stubbornly wearing it. Burn it. Greg on Facebook echoing, my shirt gave out also. I'm starting a new shirt tradition for the new streak. And our friend Selena at UCF. Selena, do we keep up our rituals and superstitions now that we lost a game? For example, do I have to sit in the same chair and change shirts during halftime next year just because it worked 95% of the time this year?
I have a solution to this. That only works during the regular season. That does not work for bowl games. It's only during the regular season that these superstitions really work. Bowl games are a completely different thing, like the moon and everything is like totally off for those. So I'm telling you right now, it's all good. Continue with what you had going during the regular season last year.
But if you're looking to start a new tradition, a Knightline T-shirt would work.
A Knightline T-shirt underneath whatever T-shirt you're wearing.
That up for you to knock out of the park.
That would be a new tradition.
Didn't you wear
you could
two
start.
shirts? You wore one you always wore, and then you wore one underneath.
I wore two jerseys at the blackout games. Yes, both games that we played that were blackouts. I wore 2 jerseys. I wore my white one underneath my black one.
I like that. Send us your superstitions. Let us know what they are.
Like I said, folks, that's only during the regular season. Bowl games do not count.
Thank you, everybody, for sending in your questions. For the ones we took delay of games on or punted, we will get back to them. We got many more weeks to go. This has been a comprehensive, how about that for a word, comprehensive show.
Yeah,
some of you caught it on your drive to work and on your drive home.
And now, news and notes from the world of UCF sports. Women's basketball with a W on the road at Memphis as league play gets underway. UCF is 12-2 overall. Absolutely awesome for the women.
You know, we're a basketball school now.
Well, whatever.
24-4 between
awesome.
men's and women's basketball.
Awesome.
That is pretty impressive. Baseball rolls into the 2019 season with some accolades. Redshirt junior pitcher Chris Williams, unanimous selection for the league's preseason all-conference team, while redshirt, it's hard to say, junior outfielder Ray Aleo was named to the second team. UCF projected to finish 4th in the league's preseason poll. That's not acceptable anymore, is it?
No, not 4th.
4th is not acceptable.
Way too far back.
That's maybe a question for Coach Lovelady. Considering the success of the other programs, Coach.
Is 4th good enough? All right, softball spring practice is underway under first-year head coach Cindy Ball, and UCF splits a pair of weekend games with Team Canada. The season opens February 7th against Ole Miss at the UCF softball complex.
See, other sports are coming. We got a busy spring.
I know.
Volleyball. Your enthusiasm for the spring there. Volleyball, more All-American honors for freshman McKenna Melville and senior Jordan Pingle from volleyballmag.com. Meantime, UCF finished 25th in the final American Volleyball Coaches Association poll, program first to be ranked in the top 25.
And finally, club ice hockey 4-3 over the Cows tonight after the Solar Bears game at the Amway.
No war on I-4 points, but it's always good to send them back to Tampa with a L.
Absolutely. All right, this has been Knightline 176. I'm Andrew Phegley.
I'm Trace Trylko. Happy New Year. Go Knights.
Charge on.
field. With our spirits we'll never yield. Black and gold charge right through the line. Victory is our cry, B-S-E-T-O-R-Y. Tonight our nights will shine. UCF Knights, UCF, let's go Knights. UCF charge on.